Oh, hi, everybody. I'm Richard Eisenberg, and thanks for joining us on Friends Talk Money. For the past few years, surveys of retirees have shown that they've been pretty chipper about their finances and about retirement, but not anymore. The new 2026 Retirement Confidence Survey from the Employee Benefit Research Institute, or EBRI, shows that retirees have grown gloomier about their retirement and about money lately. On today's Friends Talk Money, my friends Pam Kruger, Terry Savage, and I are going to dive into the top 5 things retirees are worried about right now and what you can do if you're retired or getting close to retirement and feeling a little jittery. Before we get into those worries, Pam and Terry, I wonder, were you surprised that retirees' retirement confidence has taken a turn for the worse?
Well, I'm not, Richard. I mean, if you look at the headlines in the news, I mean, there's war, there's energy worries, rising oil prices, potential inflation, rising interest rates. There's so much uncertainty all of a sudden that now people who are retired or about to retire thought they had it all nailed down, and everything's fluttering around. So, of course, people are concerned.
And I'm not surprised because, yeah, we see the stock market continuing to go up, which makes some people feel like, okay, that's good that that's happening over there. But people don't live inside the stock market averages. We're in the grocery store. We're walking up and down the aisles, literally rethinking the items on our shopping list. My landscaper just left. He raised my monthly fee, just told me that. And then there's all the other living expenses every month. I mean, when one HVAC system can blow up our retirement budget, then yeah, people are getting worried. So pre-retirees and retirees I talk to every day who look really good on paper because they have savings, because they are, participating in this, what's been this tremendous bull market. And maybe they've even got a paid off home, but they don't feel secure right now.
Yeah, absolutely. When I saw this survey, I interviewed Craig Copeland at the EBRI. He's head of research there. I wrote an article about this for Market Watch, and he told me that the decline in confidence among retirees this year is one that they have not seen since post-COVID. So why don't we talk about those 5 worries? The first of them is higher than expected costs in retirement, which is what Terry and Pam were just talking about. 40% of the retirees surveyed said that their living expenses are more than what they thought they'd be. And 3 of those expenses are travel, health, and housing. And also Medicare was another big worry for retirees related to health. And Fidelity estimates that a 65-year-old couple who retired last year can expect to pay $345,000 on average in health costs for the rest of their lives. Terry, I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about what are you hearing about healthcare costs and Medicare from your readers?
Yeah. No, this is a very hot topic. First of all, because you don't know about Medicare typically until you turn 65. And many people who keep working and continue to be covered by their employers don't face it until they're fully retired. And then they sign up for Medicare, which might be later than 65. So there's this thing we all know. Well, Medicare covers everything. I could see any doctor I want and that it accepts Medicare, and most of them do. And I'll get a supplement and they'll pay for what Medicare does it. That's the kind of the commercial. Oh yeah, you could have an Advantage plan. It'll limit your doctors and it'll be less expensive and you can, get your teeth or your eyes, whatever it is. But basically, we have this sense that Medicare covers everything. Now, here's what happens every year. First of all, the basic Part B premium goes up. Medicare premium for the lowest, and it's based on your income, by the way, went up about it went up exactly $17.90 in 2026. That base premium of $202.90 a month. We'll go on to whether you're paying the base premium or not. So your Part B premium goes up and it's about 10% increase. Then wait, you got a supplement. You are very proud of yourself because you got the most comprehensive supplement G. And those premiums went up as much as 40% from 2025 to 2026. Those premiums could go from $300 to $400 something dollars a month. Major companies, all of them. Now, once you're in Plan G, you can't switch to another Plan G that didn't go up as much without a health underwriting. I mean, you're already in Plan G, but the next Plan G might not take you. So here you are in Plan G. You see a huge increase. Now what happens? You're in retirement, and your Part D, your deductible goes up. So if you have drugs, and then you find out all the drugs are more expensive, and then you have to appeal your Part D drugs, please put it in a tier where I only have to pay $3 instead of $300. It'd be $2,100 out of pocket. So all these costs add up, and then another whammy comes to those in retirement when they reach age 73. Suddenly you're going to be required to take minimum distributions. You all know about that. That adds to your income. Or perhaps you take a capital gain on a stock you own that's not in your retirement account. Or you get some extra money. I just said that the standard Medicare premium this year, I'm going to give you some numbers, but you know what? I'm not going to bore you with numbers. I'm going to ask our producer, Louie. By the way, I hope you watch this on video. Our podcast is taped. I put on eye makeup every time, so I want you to go to talkmoney.org and you can watch the video. And now we have this new technology. So, Louie, I'm going to give you the chart for the Medicare brackets, but let me explain what happens to you. I just said the standard Part B premium is $202.90. That's for people who have, don't get me into the details, modified adjusted gross income of under $109,000. But if you earn between, this is a single person, $109,000 to $137,000, that 202 jumps to $284. Earn more than $137,000 up to $171,000. Suddenly you're paying $405 a month. And guess what? If you earn as a single person over $205,000, your monthly Medicare Part B premium is about $650. So those numbers keep going up. So here's what happens. Your base premium goes up. It's called the IRMA adjustment, the more you earn. And when you start taking those RMDs or money out of your annuities, that's all added to ordinary income. Your Medicare Part B premium goes up. Your supplement goes up. Your Part B costs go up. And thank you very much, Medicare, for paying for everything, but it doesn't. And when this happens to you, it really messes up your plans if you didn't know in advance this was going to happen. Sorry for the long explanation, but that's a big hunk of what retirees face.
Yeah, especially if they're on a fixed income. Pam, I mentioned that housing costs was a big concern for a lot of retirees these days. What are you hearing about housing costs for retirees, whether they're buying or renting these days?
Well, if the healthcare didn't depress you, then this will. I mean, this is housing. I mean, I'm serious. This is what I was just talking about today for me personally. I mean, the care and the feeding of the house, the maintenance, it's not just the mortgage today. It's not just you live in a condo, you downsize, let's say, and you've got the HOA. You've got those monthly fees that always go up. And then you've got, a house that you're renting. No matter what it is, the house needs care and feeding. And somehow, some way, we just never really fully budget that in. So, I'm kind of kidding, but I'm not. I mentioned that HVAC system because it cost me last year almost $20,000 to replace. And for retirees who rent, they may want to try to stay where they are and, what we call age in place without having to move again. And those rental homes, not only the rent goes up, but I mean, the rental homes often need some kind of modification, maybe later. You may have to do some work, even though you're renting it, to make it more accessible, should you need to. So financial planners, a lot of times, they use a rule of thumb that basically says homeowners should expect to spend about 1 to 3% of the home's value every single year, budget for that, just on maintenance and repairs alone.
So let's try to get through some of these other worries too. I want to be sure we get to all 5 of them. Another one was Social Security. Not a big surprise there, but in case people in our audience might not remember this, The Social Security trustees say that the Social Security Trust Fund for Retirement Benefits is going to be depleted in about 7 or 8 years or so by 2033, and that's sooner than they forecast in 2024. So I think that's one reason why some retirees are more concerned about Social Security. And at the same time, as we've heard, Social Security has cut back on their staffers who work there. There are 13% fewer staffers helping people due to the Trump administration's budget cuts. So I'm wondering, let me ask you, Terry and Pam, do you think retirees have reason to be concerned about Social Security? I've heard some people say, well, yeah, it's going to have a problem, but it's really not going to affect the people who are already retired. It's going to be affecting the people who are not yet retired. What do you think?
I've been having long discussions about this with my co-author of Social Security Horror Stories, Larry Kotlikoff. He is the acknowledged expert. And he said, Terry, you've got to make plans based on what the promises are because of two things. Number one, the people collecting Social Security now are the baby boomers. And baby boomers vote. It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican, baby boomers vote, and that pressure on Congress will force them to do something. Number two, he pointed out that Congress gets Social Security. Now, they may all be getting rich on their side deals now, and it might not matter, but I think a lot of them care too. The facts of the matter are that it's not going to be like the vault is empty. There will be only enough money from incoming deposits, payments into Social Security, contributions. I hate that word FICA, Federal Insurance Contributions Act. I think of contributions as voluntary, but today's younger workers do not get that choice. It's over 15%, employer and employee. But the money coming in will pay about 73% of the benefits. Now, I don't know if they will adjust by raising the wage cap. There's a level beyond which you do not pay Social Security. So maybe they'll say all income will pay Social Security taxes. That would fix it fast. Or whether they will say, well, people who have other income, I have no idea. But if you think anything today in Congress is a hot potato, you can be sure that adjusting payouts in Social Security will be that. I think you have to plan on receiving the Social Security you were promised. And if you are a moral person, you have to think about what a huge burden this is placing on the younger generation who likely won't. And at least encourage your children and grandchildren to save as much in their own IRAs or 401ks as they do have taken out in FICA from their paycheck. They say, well, I can't afford to. You can't afford FICA, but it goes out anyway. They need to remember they're not going to be guaranteed what we are getting.
Debt is another growing worry for retired Americans. According to the survey, 39% of retirees said that debt was a problem for them, and that's up from 34% in 2025. About a third said that they have non-mortgage debt between $1,000 and $24,999. Pam, I'm wondering, what do you think is going on there? What are you hearing about debt for people who are retired?
Well, I'm talking to people every day, and some retirees are carrying debt, and it's not about being irresponsible. We're not 21 years old. It's about, helping out adult children. It's supporting grandchildren. It's, paying for caregiving expenses that somebody didn't expect to. It could also be that they, just refinanced at the wrong time, got caught by higher costs, everywhere else, things that need to be reconsidered. But one way to take the anxiety out of having debt later in your life is to do what I call a cash flow audit. A cash flow audit is not a punishing budget exercise. It is a reality check. So you can really clock where the money is really going every month. Now, that clarity may bring up some stuff if it comes to but I want to help my kids buy a house, whatever it is. That clarity, it does really equal peace of mind here because, you've got to be honest, if you are overdoing it, in certain areas, and you can make those adjustments right now, before that pulls you way off track, you can do something about it, but when somebody is running a monthly deficit on credit cards because they're trying to support a lifestyle that they can't really afford and their income no longer covers because they got laid off or something, it's going to catch up with you sooner or later. And so I think having eyes wide open and being able to make those adjustments right now so you can live without stress is the only thing you can do. You just have to look at everything and see where the money is going, and then come to God on it and make the adjustments.
So before this becomes like an overwhelming thing, think about one big thing you could eliminate or sell. Maybe even though you thought you were going to grow old in your house, maybe it's time to sell it, take the proceeds, either rent or move into a smaller place and pay off the debt. So you get out from the snowball of debt. And while we're talking about it, it's easy for you to say it, Pam. You and I, this is what we do. We're disciplined. We talk to people. The National Foundation for Credit Counseling, nfcc.org, or the toll-free number 800-388-2227 connects you to the nearest member agency of this nonprofit. We will again put these things in the show notes at friendstalkmoney.org. It's yes, you need to think about it, but you're dealing with a partner in many cases. You're dealing with a lifestyle. You're dealing with inertia. So when it comes to debt, there's no tinkering around the edges.
You mentioned partners, and that reminds me of the last big worry of retirees, and according to this EBRI study, and that's caregiving. 44% said they were concerned about having to provide care for a loved one. In 2023, only 36% said that. And when I asked Craig Copeland at EBRI about this, he said when you have to pay for caregiving in retirement, that can make it harder to save. And you may have to stop working so that you have the time for caregiving. And that reminds me that speaking about work, the EBRI study said that 74% of workers plan to work in retirement, but only 31% of retirees do. I wonder if you guys have any thoughts about why there's such a big gap between the high percentage of workers who plan to work in retirement and the percentage who actually do. Why do you think that is?
I think there's two reasons. One is, what I said 10 years ago, what I said 5 years ago that I'm going to do, it all starts changing when you start to get closer to retirement. I mean, I know this from my own experience, but somebody came to Wealth Ramp to me just in the past couple of weeks. We had a really nice conversation. She's in her 50s. This is what she said to me. She said, really, Pam, my plan is that I'm going to work forever. So that is my retirement plan. That way I can do what I want to do right now. I don't have to worry so much about being on a budget. And look, I can relate to that statement because I think you've heard me say it here myself. I'm going to be working and, forever. But that's all well and fine if you can. But is it, a fantasy to bank on the idea that you can simply choose to work longer, if you need more money? Because life could make that decision for you. It could be a health issue. It could be that caregiving for someone else becomes its own full-time job. You didn't expect that. So I'm going to share something that I've been thinking about a lot. We seem to be chasing the one date on the calendar to stop working, the amount that's in the bank account balance where you can stop working. I don't think it has to be an on-off switch. Retirement doesn't have to be, I'm either working or I'm not. I think, like for me, I'm doing this myself. It is a lot easier for me to aim for flexibility and optionality as the ultimate goal. So I'm looking at the whole thing like it's on a dimmer switch. And then that way I can say, hey, instead of, not working at all, in retirement, I'm going to take a couple years off. I'm going to start taking my first withdrawals from my retirement savings. I'm going to travel. I'm going to hang out. I'm going to take that 2-year break. And then I'm going to probably decide, I got to do something. I'm going to go back to work for a couple years, assuming I can. And that alone can add another $100,000 to fortify my $1 million nest egg. So for me, optionality, the ability to adjust, that's real freedom. Not saying you're going to work forever because you may not be able to.
Yeah, or the employers may not let you. It's also
right.
true.
You may not be able to forever for different reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon on the next Friends Talk Money. Bye.
Friends Talk Money is funded in part by a grant from the Investor Protection Trust. The IPT is a nonprofit organization devoted to investor education. Since 1993, the IPT has worked with the states to provide the independent, objective investor education needed by all Americans to make informed investment decisions. Visit investorprotection.org. We also receive support from the North American Securities Administrators Association, known as NASA. It's the oldest international investor protection organization. NASA's members include state and provincial securities regulators from the U.S., Canada, and Mexico who serve on the front lines of investor protection. Recognizing that education and awareness are powerful tools in the fight against investment fraud, NASA is pleased to sponsor Friends Talk Money. Here are 3 important tips to help you protect your money from fraud. With investing, there are always risks, so be cautious of anybody telling you that a certain investment is guaranteed. You should also proceed with caution if somebody is promising very large investment returns. This is a common red flag for investment fraud. Last and most importantly, be sure you're working with a licensed or registered financial professional. You can check your advisor and make sure they're licensed by visiting brokercheck.finra.org. NASA is your partner in keeping you safe and helping you avoid investment frauds. Visit nasa.org and click on the Investor Education tab to learn more.